Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of what I have unilaterally decided is an episode of On the Record, episode number 4 of On the Record, and we'll get to why that is what it is. But first, I have to introduce the co-host of On the Record, the man who needs no introduction, but he's getting one anyway, El Queso del Diablo himself. Please welcome back to the show, Tanner. Tanner, how's it going?
It's great. It's funny you mentioned that nickname, one of several monikers that I have, but I did in fact eat tacos just before we started recording this. So it's almost as if you could sense it through the screen.
This one could go either way.
Yeah.
After an hour or so.
North or south,
In either direction, it's a nightmare.
But thank you for the intro and very happy to be back for another episode.
Yeah, so, okay, the reason that I wanted this to be an episode of On the Record is because we've established that's when we speak off the cuff very enthusiastically about an album we know well, as opposed to the podcast where Jeff and I are reacting to new music and doing our little album reviews. This is more of a dive into things that are more personal to us, and again, things we can speak very off the cuff about. We have a lot of great stories tied up with this one. So for me, even though it's a different album that we're covering, the album that we are in fact talking about on this one, in part, is Everyone's Getting Involved, a tribute to Talking Heads' Stop Making Sense. That was the record that motivated us to do this episode. I was like, hey, let's review this. I don't know if Jeff would be into it. When you agreed to it, it then, over the course of our discussion, evolved into, we're going to have to give a lot of context for Stop Making Sense, both the concert film and the album that came out of it. So it's kind of going to be a dual retrospective in this way. Hybrid review and retrospective, the kind of cutting edge thing you can only get at youtube.com/c/out on that line. But anyway, I want to start this off then with your history with Talking Heads, your relationship with Stop Making Sense, essentially speak to your passion. What is the reason you agreed to do this episode?
I mean, from a younger age, I'm sure you can relate as well. You hear the Talking Heads hits, on classic rock radio, you hear your, whatever, you hear Psycho Killers, you hear your Once in a Lifetimes, you hear your Burning Down the Houses, on the radio growing up or whatever, what have you. But for me, my Talking Heads story in earnest begins in a small town that Jeff knows very well, the small town of Johnson, Vermont. Because I was out there, I was at a party with Jeff across the street from the house that he lived at with friend of the pod, Matt Reno. And we were at a house party across the street where also friend of the pod, Hillary Seal Reno, lived at the time. They lived across the street from each other. And we were at a party, and it wasn't a big party. There were maybe 20 people there, maybe. It wasn't that big of a house. And we were just hanging out, and at some point somebody said, yeah, just Stop Making Sense, and everyone in the room knew what they were talking about except for me. And I said, wait, what are you guys talking about? And it was kind of a record scratch moment where everyone at the party kind of turned and looked at me, and they're like, wait, you don't know what that is? No. The party immediately just becomes a screening of this movie. They're like, get the DVD out. So
hell yeah.
It just went from being a party, the music went off, the lights went down, the beer bottles were still there, but also the glassware came out, if you know what I mean. And we just sat there and watched this concert. First off, just the experience of watching it with a bunch of people that were so into it totally heightened the experience for me on the first time viewing, and instilled in me immediately how special this was. Hey, there's all these people that I really enjoy and really respect. As we grow older, I find that I respect a lot of people that were there. Not all of them. Like I said, Jeff was there. And basically think that was in the era of like downloading songs. Like you could go on YouTube and like take the URL and put it into like YouTube MP3 converter and download it. And I think I like just did the whole movie from YouTube and like put it on my iPod and like burned it onto a CD. It's like very rudimentary. And I listened to these songs for the rest of that like year. And then, as time went on, showing it to other people, showing it to friend of the pod, Mitch. Um, it's just remains a cornerstone film for me, just in general, in terms of film literally in the widest sense. Um, and also it led to Mitchell and I kind of following this Talking Heads tribute band around when they would play in the state of Vermont.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're called Start Making Sense. They're still out there. They're still doing it. They're still doing the damn thing. Um, and we saw them. It must have been something like 20 times. One time we brought them a case of Hetty Topper down to Massachusetts, and that's when like the friendship really formed. So Mitch and I have seen this music performed, um, faithful to the movie, so many times with the movie and with seeing them combined. And actually, a few years ago, they painstakingly reproduced this movie live in like a big theater in Pennsylvania, their home state. And they rehearsed it for like a week and a half, like 3 times a day, running it to painstakingly get it down. And unfortunately, because of copyright stuff, we'll probably never see Blockers.
Yeah, Blockers, right?
Rant
45 minutes, Rick Beato.
parentheses. But no, and basically that's kind of like where the journey. I don't want to say ends, but like, um, it still remains in my collection.
Remains in
Um,
light.
yes, it remains in light. They reissued, the vinyl finally. Um, so I snagged that, which obviously is a big part of like a very cherished part of my vinyl collection. To have the movie soundtrack, these versions of these songs in the order that you're seeing them in the film, um, because as we'll talk about, I'm sure a lot of the studio versions of the Talking Head songs versus the performances from the film are very different.
Yes.
And usually in terms of like energy level, I would say,
Hmm.
maybe potentially cocaine intake, I would say, which
Perhaps a
leads to
smidge.
the energy. But I mean, basically, that's my rough history with the heads. What about you?
So for me, the first contact was my father, who in general has very shitty taste in music. He got three right: Meatloaf, Jackson Brown, and Talking Heads. So not only did he introduce me to Meatloaf, which is huge, but he was the first person that showed me Talking Heads, and it was Psycho Killer, and I was like, all right, I'm fine. I think I was too young to appreciate it. And he kind of did that like pushy dad thing, and it's like, hey,
Hmm.
just because Meatloaf worked doesn't mean you're gonna force this one. And Jackson Brown, no way I was there yet. I was like, this guy isn't an old man singing
Yeah,
about getting a girl like Britney Spears or something by Britney Spears. The only two things I listen to at this point in my life. Get out of here.
I think you have to turn 30 and then you really start to appreciate Jackson Brown. Coming from someone who turned 30 and can't stop buying Jackson Brown albums.
Dude, the song My Opening Farewell is one of the most depressing fucking things I've ever heard. Very beautiful, super depressing. But I digress from Jackson Brown. So yeah, it was like exposure to it young, and then you hear Psycho Killer and Burning Down the House. And I liked Burning Down the House better. And for a while, that was like it. That was the limit. It was after you had your Stop Making Sense viewing experience that you were like, dude, Talking Heads. And it didn't come on strong. You just like many times a slow campaign where like, oh, Talking Heads. Or you'd play a song and I'd be like, ah, that's fucking fantastic. Well, let me show you this whole album. And then just like gradually the wormhole widened, the gauge took and it set, and we just started crushing Talking Heads. And it's so good. It's so weird. For me, it falls just like right in the sweet spot of the conventionality novelty curve, where they weren't necessarily like intensely gifted on an otherworldly level as musicians, but they had everything it took to make the most unique, weird, accessible, exciting new wave coming out of post-punk and, stuff like Elvis Costello, where you were allowed to make like rock and roll music that was more whimsical and kind of did more weird shit and was not it was self-aware, didn't take itself too seriously, but wasn't dicking off. David Byrne, mastermind genius, apparently a huge asshole, possibly autistic. He's a grab bag of a man who loves more songs about buildings and food.
He loves buildings in general.
Look over there, Dry Ice Factory. Good place to get some thinking done. Here's a deep cut line for you. And see, so this is the result is they make such strange and interesting music. You're never quite sure where it's going to go. There's a lot of influence in it. There's no point of diminishing returns on it either. Every time you come back to it, it's just as rich and as wonderful as you remember it. And for me, a synthesis of that really is the song Heaven. I have a specific take on that, which we'll get to as we dive into our review of this tribute album. Um, but yeah, I mean, Talking Heads endures. So what else do you want to say about Stop Making Sense, the
Um,
film or the album?
yeah, I'd love to just touch on how unique it is in that they literally build the band and the stage song by song. It begins with David Byrne walking out on stage, and he goes like something like, "I've got a cassette I want to play for you." And it's just him and his acoustic guitar and this cassette that's playing like the rhythm part for Psycho Killer, right? And then he does like the weird dance at the end, and the 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 dance in that song is just like the precursor of everything that's gonna like fucking happen in this thing. Is like it's gonna be weird, but it's gonna be the best kind of weird. It's gonna be so like the weirdest thing you could ever like imagine. You're gonna love every second of it. Like so, he does that solo, and then you brought up Heaven. It's him and the bass player Tina Weymouth on Heaven, and then they slide the drummer out on the drum riser, and they do Thank You for Sending Me an Angel. Chris France, by the way, the drummer. I don't want to, especially as a drummer, you got to give you got to
Oh
give
yeah,
name
you
recognition
gotta
when coming.
give.
You got to give, man. And then it just keeps growing and growing until the full band is out there, and the band that they play within the movie isn't like the Talking Heads mainly is just the four people. But the touring band, I want to say there's like maybe eight to 10 people featuring the backup singers, excuse me, the extra keyboard player, the extra guitar player. Um, they're all big group up on stage. The energy the whole time never lets down. It just keeps like kind of like ramping up, 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 up. And then by the time you get to This Must Be the Place, you're like so high up on the climb that it grounds you. It's so perfectly placed because after that you begin the climb again, and by the end of Cross-Eyed and Painless, you are in like heights you've never even dreamt of, musically wise, in terms of like speed, intensity, sweat. Um, but yeah, I those that I just wanted to tip my cap again to the staging and to the production design. Obviously, David Byrne wears the big jacket for Girlfriend is Better. Um, he tangos with the lamp on This Must Be the Place, which is like for a concert movie. And I don't know why, like it's just very emotional for me. I don't know what, like he's dancing with an inanimate object in a very strange way, but there's like a soul to it and a heart to it while that song is playing in the background, which is one of the best songs ever written, ever, in my estimation. This Must Be the Place, Naive Melody. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to again tip the cap to the production element and the um uh, for better or for worse, they don't show the crowd like ever. If they do, you see them kind of like in the back, like the crowd is like there and very dark because it's a side stage shot.
Hmm.
But it's a very interesting like it's as if you're just in the audience the whole time.
Yeah. Oh, big time.
Yeah, like you're just in the audience the entire time.
I like that.
And yeah, I do too. I do too. It's another thing that makes it unique. And I was thinking about this earlier. The Last Waltz is often referred to as the best what would you call it, concert film ever. But that is interlaced with a whole ton of interviews. And this is just straight up the show.
Hmm.
I would almost put them in different categories,
100%.
and they're both at the top of each respective category. Like The Last Waltz for documentary, concert, whatever you want to call it, is here and Stop Making Sense as just a straight up concert film. Nothing beats it.
Completely agree. Completely agree on Zenstar finds you guilty on all charges.
And not
Um,
even new evidence.
well, both iconic in their own ways. It's exactly like you said. You have a hybrid concert film documentary, a film, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. And then you have a straight up concert film. I think that's the best way to describe it. And the things that you were describing about the performance are, again, so iconic. It's what even people with a passing familiarity associate it with: the big suit, Tango with the lamp. And it's not weird. I love the way you put it about like there's kind of an intimacy, and not in like a sophomoric way, like he wants to fuck the lamp, but like there's an intimacy to it in the sense that he's taking it seriously. It's not like, wouldn't it be funny if I danced with a lamp? Like
Hmm.
he was in that. He was into that. The big suit was not like, oh, it'll be funny. I think he was probably like, it'll be whimsical, but not like, won't this get a laugh? It's just, this is a thing we want to do. They did weird stuff in the most lovable way. It's very lovable music. Very inoffensive, not that we like care about being offended. I mean, like, you got Jeff who listens to, Norwegian black metal bands like Cum Pig and Bleeding Anus, Razorblade Revenge. So we're not easily offended on this show. But it really is just like music that's very accessible to all. And I think beloved by quite a few people, including a lot of artists that we'll get to, none of whom appear on the tribute album. So should we transition into uh, the review portion of this?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I've got my notes ready.
Do you have a log line for us? Do you have like a distillation, a bottom line?
Of the album?
Yeah. I don't want to put you on the spot. If you don't,
I
that's
d
okay.
I actually I do. I wrote it in italics because 'cause I'm fancy.
Oh.
Um, this is gonna probably give away what my general thoughts on the album are, but my end line is, "How many of these artists have seen this film?"
Oh, you have hit upon it, sir.
How many of these artists have seen this film? Subtext, do they understand the cultural significance?
Oh, shit. Well, to echo that, absolute ill-conceived misfire with no coherence and nothing that wants you to come back for more. A betrayal of Talking Heads music and a middle finger to the fans.
Is that's what you had?
That's what I have.
Oh my god. Whew. Okay, so we can both just fucking start dunking on this shit.
Let's just start fucking ripping. The next thing I
Oh my
have in
god.
quotations is, this feels like a cash grab. So,
Forgive.
y-
No, I do want to say I did cull 5 songs. I don't want to say 5 songs that I liked. I think there's 3 that I liked, but there's a top 5 that I did make.
okay.
Um,
I wonder if we have the same three, because I picked exactly three. My categories break down to good, which is 3,
mhm.
fine, which is the majority of the album, and then Total Dog Shit, which has about 6 or 7 noticeable clunkers. We'll get into all that.
I'm trying to think. I have the word capitalized fine in a bunch of these notes. I would say my three goods: cross-eyed and painless, what a day that was, burning down the house.
Okay.
That's what I would say. And then just on the, stepping in, just on the cusp, the making flippy floppy and the found a job.
Okay. All right. We're pretty much locked in here. I also had Paramore burning down the house, Chicano Batman, Cross-Eyed and Painless. I had the Linda Lindas found a job in my top 3. But
Hmm.
like you said, if there were any on the hover, I think it would be Making Flippy Floppy by good old what's his name? Tizo
Yeah,
Touchdown.
the guy that had never heard the Talking Heads before.
Yeah,
Sure, let's have him record
great.
a cover for this really culturally significant album.
But then he ended up
But
doing
he
one
does it,
of the
yes.
more like straightforward covers of a song that I love. It left me dissatisfied, but I can't say he fucked up as bad as some of the people in the dog shit category. Um, which we will get to. And what was the other one you said was on the well, you said Linda Linda and Flippy Floppy were on the cusp. What was the third one that made it in for you?
What a day that was.
Okay.
The Caveman.
Okay. That one did not make the cusp for me. I'll just put it that way. But
I will say that for me, the reason why it probably did is just because they did the drum part right, which so many of these artists decided to just like say what like I don't know. I don't know how this album was. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
I don't
But
know where it all went wrong.
yeah, it's definitely like not in the what a day that was in the film is like so energetic and like super high energy. And this one is like more chill. But again, the drum part being the same gives it a lot of credit in my book.
I could agree with that. I'm gonna move that one to the fine category because it the energy is there. One of my big complaints was people you're not getting people. David Byrne has a high voice, a specific voice. It's like the Jerry Seinfeld of new wave voices. You can't be you got to steer into that. And I think my guy in the caveman, uh,
No,
had a difficult time, but he went
yeah,
for it, and I respect that. And I respect, yes, the drumming, the spirit of the thing was there. It just completely fell apart by the end, which is absolutely wild. That like that was the take. Maybe they saw that and they were like, "Well, steer into that, take a chance," which is something that a lot of people did on this album.
a lot of chances were taken. A lot of chances were taken.
Pants were shit. I would like to take a brief digression here
Yes.
to pose something to you. I want to get into the artists that are on this album.
Okay.
But before that, I want to tell you about a list of people of musicians who are avid, confessed Talking Heads fans. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Kesha, The Weekend, the 1975 Eddie Vedder, St. Vincent, who literally did an entire album with David
Yes.
Byrne,
And toured. They played Shelter Museum.
at Amen. Vampire Weekend, LCD Sound System, Radiohead, who literally took their name from a Talking Head song, Trent Reznor, and Primus. Do
Yeah.
you think they asked a single one of these motherfuckers if they had the
Dude,
availability to do this album?
just that's that is so affirming because as I'm listening through this album, I'm like, what why A, who are half these people? And, and why are they doing these songs? Like there's gotta be the list you just gave me, there's gotta be an alternate universe out there that exists where that is the album.
Yes.
And I'm not one for interdimensional travel. but you can make a pretty good case that I don't want to live on the earth with this one.
Jesus, dude. It yes, you're right. There's an alternate universe where these people did the album. And the thing is, was it about money? Was it about like, well, we can't afford to pay all those people? If they love the music, they'll probably do it just to do it. I don't mean they'll work for free, but they'll work for like scale or something because they'd want to do it. I love Talking Heads. If someone was like, you want to be on the tribute album? I'd say, absolutely. 100% in a heartbeat. Like, pay my bus fare. I'll be there Tuesday. Um, Not a single one of these people, maybe they were asked and they said no. I highly doubt it. I bet they weren't even asked in the first place because here's what I think is the strategy. So A24, the film production company branching out, they have the rights to the 4K restoration of the 40th anniversary of the movie. Um, so what I think this was a case of vertical integration as opposed to a labor of love, where they're like, holy shit, not only can we release 4K restoration, not only can we release Stop Making Sense concert vinyl, but we can also have people do this album, this tribute album, and have that come out on vinyl for $40 for a double LP. The standard HD Blu-ray goes for $53 and the 4K UHD goes for $58. So you're charging those prices. I feel like I know why you picked some of the people you picked because you probably didn't have to pay them as much. You're trying to maximize your profits here. Am I accusing A24 of leveraging a beloved, significant pop cultural landmark to make a buck? Yes, absolutely. It's the only explanation I have. And you know what? I can respect that if that's the case. If the quality control just wasn't there and they thought they actually did a good job on this, I'm terrified. I'm terrified because that is a lack of awareness so bad, it makes you wonder what they're going to do next.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, or it makes you scared.
Like,
Please, please, can you imagine if they somehow they can't because Criterion has it. Can you imagine if they somehow got their hands on the last waltz?
oh, Jesus.
And they're like, "Oh, the night they drove Old Dixie down is gonna be performed by someone's asshole."
AKA Morgan Wallen with a
Yeah,
feature
dude.
by
Oh my
Post
god.
Malone.
Yes.
You
Yes.
get all of them. You get
He would
Jason
do that song
Aldean,
too.
Morgan Wallen. You get them all the stars,
Oh my
Oliver
god.
Anthony, and they all
Yeah.
do I Shall Be Released at the end.
They do Up on Cripple Creek, but they somehow change lyrics to make it about a dirt road.
Body like a dirt road, baby.
Oh,
I mean, fuck. Yeah. Go ahead.
so sad that list that you I just can't get that out of my head, the list of artists that you said. Especially because like at the very end you said Primus and I'm like, what song would they have done? And my god, now I can't stop thinking about Primus doing any talking. Ah,
I'm thinking specifically about making Flippy Floppy.
oh my
Can you
god,
imagine?
come on. That's yeah, that's way better than this trash.
Can you imagine that fucking weirdo? Nothing can come between us.
That's literally yes. It's like made.
Nothing
It's
get you
made for
down.
yeah. You can hear Primus crawl out of the ooze of that song.
Yes. Oh, it's so oozy. That's the thing about okay, the ooze, the secret of the ooze. That's a big problem on this one, right? Because you have some people, I would argue the people in our respective top threes, who found a way to cover the songs and make them faithful but unique. It's that they were right in the sweet spot of a cover, recognizable, good twist on it, doing some fun stuff, delivering a performance that's in the spirit of the original that like respects it down to its DNA and succeeds because of it and is a great song that stands on its own. And we have a precious few that did that on this album because beyond those, everything else was either karaoke or just the wildest, like Psycho Killer, Miley Cyrus. I feel like someone handed her just like a handwritten note with the lyrics and said, go for it. Don't listen to the song. Go for it. I want to see what you can do. It turns out she did a half-ass version of Lady Gaga's Born This Way.
Dude, no, I have that.
Let's get into it. Let's get into it.
I have it sounds like Lady Gaga's band recorded the music and then she couldn't make it and they had Miley show up and sing it.
Dude, first
I
of
said
all,
I said I like Miley and enjoyed her last album, but this just ain't it.
we had the exact opposite reaction, which was for me, I'm done taking up for Miley. I'm fucking done. She fucking let me down because here's the thing. This should have been great. When I saw
Mhm.
her name next to it, I'm like, when you get to the I'm like, she's gonna fucking
Yes.
shred on that. Oh my god, she's just gonna like open wide. And instead, we get this fucking does the robot drink champagne like this weird Euro dance bullshit to kick off this album. 30 seconds in, I went, oh no.
Same. I was
It
I was like excited to listen to the album and
yeah,
then it like it starts and you're like, okay, different direction ish. And then like it gets going and you're like, oh
dude.
no. Like this
Get
is
that
missing.
psycho
It
killer. No, 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 no. Get good. Like it's not. It's barely the cadences,
Yeah,
not the
it's not the
melody.
song. It's not the song.
It's
It's
not the
not the song.
song.
It's and again, a point that I'm sure I'm gonna make 8 million more times. Not only is it not the song, it's not the fucking performance from the
No.
film that you're supposedly doing a tribute to.
Right.
Not
That's a
yes.
great point. Are you doing a tribute to the film or are you doing a tribute to the album? In either way, you caked your pants badly, but
My
the point
another
remains.
thing, sub point. My thing at the top of my notes just says main point. Are they actually trying to do a tribute to the film soundtrack? Or just the studio versions of film songs. Like they listened
Eh,
to like the studio version of the song and they tried to cover that, which I posed that question like 3 songs in, and like as it kept going, I was like, some of these are nowhere near anything. They're not near the studio version of the Talking Heads song. They're not near the film version of the Talking Heads song.
Dude, they're not even in the vicinity. Like the Kevin Abstract, you give him, and I like Kevin Abstract. And here's the thing about a lot of the artists on here. If I didn't know them, it's not. I don't have anything against them
Mhm,
being included in this. I'm like, oh, I'll get exposed. Okay, well, I don't recognize a lot of names. I'll get exposed to them. So something like Gene Dawson. I think Swamp was a swing and a miss on this one, but I'm into the artist. Toro y Moi, I enjoy. Did a fine job with Genius of Love. It was fine. One of the more karaoke ones, just not terribly interesting.
mhm,
I had listened to a little Chicano Batman. I like Chicano Batman. Paramore's obviously great. The Lindas impressed the shit out of me. We'll get to them.
mhm.
Um, so there was just like I'm fine with the people on it, but you gotta do the job that in many cases it feels like they were hired to do. A lot of these things reek of hired gun. A lot of these things are just you didn't understand the assignment. Kevin Abstract gets once in a lifetime one of the seminal Talking Head songs. It's another the music video and the song, it's another one that's like pop cultural ubiquity. Most people know it. Letting the
Mhm.
days go by. You do that, and everyone's like, "Yeah, let the water hold me down." It's iconic, as many of these songs are, but it's one of the most iconic. And he fucking turned it into a piece of fucking shit. And again, I like Kevin Abstract, but this was a crime. You should put him and Miley Cyrus in jail. And I'm not being dramatic. Put them in jail for crimes against fucking songs. I
We
just
talked
can't believe
about
it.
Oh, sorry, I cut you off, but
No,
we
go,
you
go.
you you talked about the Miley Cyrus, Lady Gaga of the of Psycho Killer. How about let me lay this to you. It's as if on the verses, Kevin Abstract is trying to do like a bad Prince impersonation.
Mm.
I'm getting big vibes, dearly beloved.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's an
Mhm.
excellent point.
I'm like, but that's not the song. And mind you, he's not Prince, so he misses on both. The thing that really chapped my ass with this one is that this song is like where the move like it's like a cornerstone of the movie itself and of the soundtrack.
Yes.
He wears the glasses, he runs around, he goes fucking crazy. It's like a 5.5 minute song. This one's like what, 2 minutes and 38 seconds?
Reduced to fucking ashes, dude. He burned this
Did he
song to ashes.
did he even get to the time isn't holding us,
Nope.
time isn't after us? Like that for me, and again, self-professed nut about this movie and this band and this song. To me, that's a crime to not include that. That part is so important to the, let's say, the character's story in the song. To just lop that off, because there's like a desperation to it when David Byrne sings it live, and it's like the whole song is about letting days go by and letting everything just like pass you by, right? And then at the end, it's like the realization of like, no, this isn't happening, and it's like your head voice speaking out to you. Time isn't holding, like that's the way that I've always seen that. And that whenever I mentioned I would see the tribute band play it, it's one of my favorite parts of the whole night. Um, nope. But how about we just don't even
Dude,
how we just don't even do it.
it's fucking like the stuff that he cut is so offensive. You truncate it down to this. It was like the most self-involved, self-impressed vanity exercise. Like I can do better than this wonderful song that's there as a template, and no one is saying do the karaoke version. That's a problem too. Put
Hmm.
your Kevin Abstract spin on it. You know who I actually think would have been interesting to do the kind of thing Kevin Abstract was like kind of sort of touching on, but he wicked botched? A Frank Ocean type thing. You could have a more pepped
Ooh,
up Frank Ocean version of Once in a Lifetime that I think would have been very unique, very interesting, might straddle that line between like controversially taking it off the nose, but I think he would have landed it. I think he would have landed it. And that's, if my aunt had nuts, she'd be my uncle. But this song and Psycho Killer are two of the archetypal
I
offenders.
could. I can't even give you the right one.
Just some it was in there somewhere.
Yeah, you hit it. You hit it. You hit it.
Um their offense, which is all over this album, is cutting parts out, rearrange like cutting and pasting the lyrics, leaving entire chunks out, barely keeping the cadence. Like in most cases, that's all that was that don't touch me, I'm a real live wire was about as far as it got. And then it's all these abstractions that aren't even that interesting, and you're just getting frustrated because you're like, no, that lyric comes next. You started with the chorus. Like, what are you
I see
fucking
you're talking about girlfriend is better right now.
dude? Yes, dude. Why?
Yeah,
Why do they
I
think
see.
they're more clever? Why do they try to outsmart the material?
Not only, not only in that, because I have it pulled up actually on Genius. Not only do they start their version with the chorus, they change the lyric of "It's always showtime here at the edge of the stage." They change it to "It's always showtime here at the end of the show."
Ay, ay, ay. How is that better? How is
I
that better?
Once I discovered that they had changed that, next line, all caps, pass. Miss me with this. Next line, all caps. Why are they singing "Stop Making Sense" before the song says "As we get older" and "Stop Making Sense"? They sing "Stop Making Sense" a shit ton, and then the line happens "As we get older and stop making sense," which, like, you idiots, you're so dumb. Oh my god. How do you mess this up? How do you how do you mess this up so badly?
How can this feel so slapdash when you know that like I mean they're like fairly well produced for what they are. It's a little like homogeneous, like they all sound the same, but I mean, like, they were all made independently and individually. So someone must have come in there in the end and be like, "No," and, like, dialed a bunch of the knobs because they're not wildly different with their mixing and their production. So it's fucking weird. It's very fucking
No,
weird.
there's no info on who that person or people were. All you can get is the individual producers of each like track,
Yeah.
but there's no one's name, like no one stamped, I produced this album. Boom. It's all the individual stuff. So it's almost as if A24 sent a memo out that said, "Hey, piss in your own face, and and then try to record this cover because everything is drenched in piss." Uh,
From the rafters, piss from the
who
rafters.
and again, like if you love respect the source material, the songs, the film, the performances, whatever, why on earth would you change stuff around? And
I
I'm not
think
talking about like oh you can do like a little we're gonna do a solo here instead. Okay, oh maybe okay. We're talking about like you said, copying and pasting and cutting and moving lyrics around in songs that are literally set in stone in our society.
yeah, I think the answer is it was made by people who don't give a fuck. This feels like a cash grab. It's what it is. It's what it is. I'm, like, fully prepared to accuse it of that. And again, I hate to, like, take it personally with a lot of these artists, but it's like, you have to know how much this means to people, and I don't mean to be like one of those, like, internet neckbeard, like, "Star Wars, George Lucas graped my childhood." It's not that kind of
Yeah.
thing, but it's like, you're putting a hat on a hat, and that's not interesting, so I'm not, like, devastated because you affected something I love. It's just not good. It's not interesting. Belt and suspenders, hat on a hat, a picture of an apple in the world, apple. It's just like it's too much. And yeah, the balls on some of these people to do the things they did. So here's the thing. I would love to go through our like Hall of Fame turds besides Psycho Killer and Once in a Lifetime. We've established those are like the two worst.
Yes.
But there's
Uh,
some
I,
other
I I would say Girlfriend is better for me is in the worst, mega worst category because of the hatchet job they did with the lyrics.
fair enough.
Yeah,
So
because
let's
that song for me is like I have a list here of my top 5 songs from the original film, and it is my number one in the movie.
wow, sick, dude.
Yes, so I take that hatchet job personally, and I took it personal.
And I took that personally. Well,
Yeah,
I've got one of those too, and we'll get to that because I kind of want to do um we'll do our veggies first here, and we'll talk about the shit we didn't like, and then let's transition into like
and
some
yeah, and on a happier note, yeah, yeah, yeah. I
uh,
like.
yeah, like we'll do a reverse of what the album did, where it started like dog shit and it ended with a really strong performance that I would love to shout out. Um, so I'm looking at the rest of my dog shit pile. And two of them were incredibly offensive to me personally.
Mhm,
But first, we'll do a minor shout out to Lord Take Me to the River. The one note I
mhm.
had was they should have just found a random heroin addict nodding off outside the studio and asked them to do this instead. I hate this was bad. I hated this.
My take on it, is that it's just, like, there, and it's the album version. She's not doing the film version.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
doing she's doing snoozy karaoke over a music bed that's the album version, and removed the backup vocals from it, so it's just her.
Yeah. And Take Me to the River. Get no.
Yeah. It's
Sorry.
just it's snoozy, and I know that you're not a huge Lorde guy. There's a couple songs that I really do like by her. This is not one of them.
Green
But
Light's a jam.
yeah, Green Light. Yeah, that's actually that might be the only song I like by her. Actually, now that I
Yeah.
think about it. But yeah, that's a jam. This is not a jam. Again, like the big crescendo to the end of the film. and it rips, and nothing about this rips.
No, not even a little bit. So what's another like total dumpster fire that you had?
I'm gonna walk the line here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say that potentially this is a language barrier situation, but the version of Slippery People on this album is like not only a totally different song in terms of musical composition, but it's all in a different language.
Mhm.
And it doesn't sound like, and again, this is like, I don't want to be hypocritical here because I don't want it to be just like a karaoke version of this song with someone singing it in Spanish. That would be kind of disingenuous. But also at the other end of the continuum is where this exists. It doesn't
Mhm.
sound anything like the song. Um, and yeah, I just thought it's a totally different song. It's
Yeah.
just kind of like a dud. Just kind of a dud to me. Um, less offensive definitely than your Miley Cyrus's and your Kevin Abstracts,
Yeah.
but still, in just like a kind of like head scratcher, like, how did this get made kind of thing. Like, yeah, I don't know.
I had this one penciled in as swing and a miss, which is the category above total dog shit.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like, it's exactly what you said. You either present it very faithfully and recognizably in Spanish, or you do your weird take, but I would rather you not. And like you said, it's a different song in another language. It felt it stuck out a lot in the album and not necessarily in like a positive way. It was something you had to like really stop and kind of wrap your head around. And it's like, well, as a song, it's just not that enjoyable because again, the David Byrne voice, and again, don't try to imitate him, but shout out to anybody that was like singing in his register. Tizo touchdown. He pretty much rode the F sharp the entire time. But when he did get away from it, I'm like, yeah, okay. That was another swing and a miss one for me. And I love making Flippy Floppy. It's one of my favorites. But I would say, I share your misgivings about El Mato a un Policia Motorizado. Shout out for including more of these like foreign bands because that's very much part of the world music ethos. That was a big thing for Talking Heads and a big thing for David Byrne as they went
Yes.
on. So that's great. That's fine. I just think the Slippery People cover missed. Um, One of the most egregious ones for me was DJ Tune's Life During Wartime. My note says he somehow found a way to make this song boring, a fundamental misunderstanding of what this is about. It's not supposed to be dreamy and contemplative. It's anxious, it's exploitative, it's urgent. This song is just using the lyrics out of order and mashed up, and sometimes the cadences when it feels like it. This is a crock. Return to sender.
Yeah. Why are they taking a super high energy song and chilling it way the hell out?
Why?
Like, it's not the song. It's not the song. It's not the performance. Um,
I mean, it.
the song is literally like frantic, uh, anxiety, almost, you know what I mean? Like coke fueled anxiety, like you're on like the edge of your seat as a listener, and he turned it into just like, I wouldn't even call it lounge music, because if it was playing in a lounge I was in, I would say, hey, what the fuck is this?
I gotta get out of here.
This ain't my scene.
This ain't no party. This ain't no disco.
Hey, babe, finish that menthol you're smoking. We're getting out of here. We're hitting the
These are my drinks. I brought them from home.
town.
Yeah, dude, that one for me, and then just yeah. Do you have another one? You got another like real stinker you want to rant on?
I think you said that this was in your swing and a miss category.
No, that was
Uh,
a dog shit
no,
for
no,
me.
no, no. The next one,
Oh,
that I'm
sorry.
gonna say, Swamp.
Yeah. Yes.
It that might be, again, it's just like a genuine misinterpretation of the song. Like it's the soul of the song is totally removed. David Byrne is like unhinged. He's like howling like a wolf during it. Like and then we have this instead, which I wrote just my thing just says, "What even is this?" That's all that I wrote. I have no other thoughts. When I went back and listened again, I did not listen to this song again. I just fucking didn't like it. No offense to the artist. Again, respect you trying something, but like this is just like stuff you don't fuck with. And I think that's a good thing to say about every dog shit when we're talking about. Because some people on this album understood the assignment, which is crazy that so many didn't, but some did.
And it's bizarre and kind of fucked up. It's a little fucked up. One of the people that, and this is so frustrating, most successfully executed an appropriate version of the song, and in theory would be appropriate for it, despite my intense personal dislike.
I know where you're going with this one.
You know where I'm going with this
Yeah.
one. The
Yep.
National covering Heaven.
Yeah.
It's a technically appropriate cover. I fucking hate the National. I fucking hate that guy's voice. He's off key. It's not like a fun, whimsical. It should be a bug, not a feature. He's out of tune. He's fucked up the entire he fucks the whole thing up in terms of being able to enjoy what is ostensibly like, I don't who's someone else you could put in there who has that same kind of like, "Well, everybody's trying," like it has a
Nathan-
real.
Nathaniel Rateliff, but he wouldn't be able to go high.
I mean, but that's the
But
thing is he kind of
but
has
yeah,
that like sad, buttery. Well, and like who from the list of people they didn't recruit? I don't know. You could have. It would have been very different. You could have gotten a very different version of it if you did Eddie Vedder. I think it would
I was
have
about to
like,
say Eddie. Eddie, yeah,
yeah, he would have a lot of
and
like,
Eddie acoustic.
yes, yes. It would have had a lot of gravitas to it because again, he's not going nuts with the voice. He's just that's almost the twist is like using that beautiful instrument to lend itself to this song, which I have a huge soft spot for because David Byrne, bless his heart, his idea of heaven is repeated efficient experiences and people leaving a party in an orderly fashion at exactly the same time. He literally says that.
Yep.
It's adorable. It's fucking adorable. Autistic savoir-faire, David Byrne. I'm not trying to be insensitive. I genuinely mean it. Like it's wonderful. It's one of the more like emotionally um vulnerable things David Byrne has written. And I love the idea of getting to experience a perfect moment over and over and over for the first time. That's how I interpret this. It's just like when this kiss is over, it will start again. It will not be any different. It's exactly the same. And it's not like, holy shit, I'm reliving this like Groundhog Day. That would be hell. You
Hmm.
just keep rebooting and having it fresh. And it's just that same bliss. A place where nothing ever happens to me is not sad. It's
No.
just it's kind of like a goldfish bliss where you live in your best moments forever and you still always appreciate them. And then you have this fucko coming in and just taking me out of it completely. Like some drunk wandered in from the parking lot and was like, let me take a crack at it. God, I fucking hate the National, dude. Hipster douchebags. Aesthetic in a bad way.
I feel that heaven, to tie this in to a discussion we most recently had about the Nightfly, I feel that heaven does a very good job of synthesizing in the same way that New Frontier synthesizes like what that party is. Like Donald Fagen describes the party at the New Frontier. David Byrne is describing like what heaven is like, and they're both parties, but they're in uh very different styles, obviously, but like in different through different eyes. But I just always kind of linked these songs together, maybe in just that they're talking about a party. Um, I also this song makes me nostalgic for times like when I got shown this film, being at a party and so many good times happen at those parties you're at when you're in like your 20s and stuff, and late teens when you're in college. And um yeah, I kind of went on a little tangent there about parties, but I don't like the National either. They're suited for this song. All the songs on the soundtrack, like, okay, they announced that they're making this tribute album, and the National is going to be on it. You're like, oh God, please don't let them touch anything but the slow song, like. And they were like, again, it's like technically musically proficient. Is his name Aaron Dessner, the lead singer?
I don't know. His name's probably Tits McGee or something.
Tits McGee's voice, it doesn't quite work. And also in the film performance, one of the backup singers is singing like backups off stage, and it's very like angelic. And it's just like when you look at the run of show for the rest of the songs, it's very out of place. A lot of this stuff is like mega high tempo, and then there's naive melody. Um, and I think out of place in terms of like thematically, but I think it fits right in after Psycho Killer. Um, but yeah, like it's like fine. My a note that I made is that I'm probably never going to listen to any of these versions of these songs ever again.
Yeah.
So like, you know, when we end the recording tonight, you and I will probably talk about this in passing for the rest of our lives, whatever, make bits about it. But I'm probably never going to listen to these songs again.
No, we're gonna be 50 years old, and we're gonna be like, remember that dog shit Talking Heads tribute? It's a tribute in the way that diarrhea is tribute for a solid shit. It's the second week in a row I've made a diarrhea analogy, but that's okay. This got so negative. So should we and I don't regret a stitch of it. But should we take things home? We are getting to a point where we need to wrap up too, I think.
Yeah.
This one's getting on the longer end, which is fine, but 'cause we don't have a lot of videos like that. So, but I'd love to end talking about like giving our flowers to some of the ones that we really enjoyed, and I will let you have the floor for that.
I will lead off with the Paramore.
Yes.
Um, because well, I talked about earlier about like understanding the assignment. Um, Haley Williams during the intro, which is like musically faithful with the synth lines and everything. It's the kind of thing when you're listening to an album like this and you're like, oh, I see what they're trying, and you go through a couple of these and you kind of get knocked around, and then this song starts, and you're like, oh, okay, this sounds like the song. And then she hits the "Who Gonna Match," which like seminal moment musically for me from
Yep.
the film is Chris France yelling that. And again, they're faithful to the song. Haley Williams puts her vocal spin on it a little bit. She gets into like her rasp or whatever you kind of would want to call it, but like she flexes the vocal a little bit. And I have here probably the best cover on the record in terms of like the cover of the performance from the show.
Yep.
It's the closest thing. It's the closest thing to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. It's the closest thing to the film performance. You're absolutely right. It's also like what a song to get. If you drew this, you had an opportunity to literally burn down the house, which is what
Hmm.
happened. It's a simple, straightforward take that is given all of its energy by Haley Williams' performance, just plopping her lady balls on the table and just going feral on this song without it being over the top and ridiculous. It's just, it
Hmm.
embodies the spirit of burning down the house. They hit it full force, incredibly well executed, super duper faithful, but just enough different that it's not, karaoke. And they love this song so much and doing this song so much that while they're opening for Taylor Swift, they're doing this one. So Swifties are
Hmm.
witnessing this in the wild. It's fascinating.
That's cool. They're probably like, oh, I love that new Paramore song.
Who's Paramore?
I don't know who that was, but I like that song about the house fire.
I wonder if they have any
Um,
other songs.
yeah, I think that like in my mind's eye, listening to this version of this song, this is like the blueprint of what the whole thing should have been. Is like
Yes.
takes like this, um, it's 80 to 90% the original song and composition, and then we do our little wiggle room with it, here and there. It's not moving lyrics around. It's not changing. It's not changing rhythms of key parts, either vocals or otherwise, drums. Um, it's just like, as Matt Reno would say, rock solid.
Rock solid. Yep, absolutely. Um, I also think in terms of like a very solid effort on this one, I got to give a shout out again to the Linda Lindas with Found a Job. I really like that song a lot. I have a soft spot for it. Um, Literal children. The oldest one is 19 and the drummer is 13 years old in this band. They are literal children. They're 15, 16, 13, 19, I believe. Somehow understood the assignment better than most of the adults.
Mm-hmm.
And they put a nice indie teen spin on this. They didn't do any weird for weird sake affectations. They leaned a little into the post punk, kind of like new wave and post punk running neck and neck here, influencing one another. They steered into that direction. They knew how to take it seriously, but have fun. They didn't fuck with the pacing of it. It was just a really, really solid, a rock solid
Rock solid.
cover. It was rock solid.
This is a song for me that if you were to, the whole run of the show, original album, probably bottom third song for me. Just like I'm not a huge Found a Job fan. But again, I appreciate this movie and album as a whole, so I never skip it because like you're on the ride.
Right.
Yeah, it's an accurate take. The soul of the song is clearly still there in this cover. It's still in there. And they add a little like the bum bum on the outro. A little sprinkle, a little different. They make it a
Yeah.
little bit different. They make it their own, just like we were talking about how Paramore did with Burn Down the House. Again, like I just don't get how there can be such a disconnect of like performances on this record because some people got it and a lot of people didn't. 24 said, yeah, just fuck it, sell it.
Yeah. Why don't you lay down, take a piss, and Talking Heads
Yeah,
mouth?
because Linda Linda's was great, and that's the kind of thing also that like you mentioned how young they are and everything. Like that's something that I'm sure that David Byrne himself can appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Would be like, oh, it's this. Yeah, they're all these young ladies. They covered one of my songs, and it's and I really appreciate. I like what they do with it. Like
I wonder what they think of brutalist architecture.
I yeah. What? Yeah, it was gonna be another house thing, a building thing. I'm just not gonna say.
Oh Jesus. What was okay, so Burning Down the House, Cross-Eyed and Painless, which we'll get to in just a moment.
Mhm.
What was your other third one?
Um, one of them was the caveman one.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Which we
Found a
talked about.
job making for yeah. I think we talked about all of them except for Cross-eyed and Painless for me.
That's the only one
And
I've got left, so
I just want to make one before we get to the Cross-eyed and Painless. This must be the place. It's one of the most covered songs of all time. I went on Spotify earlier and looked. There's like over 30 covers of it on
yeah.
Spotify. This version is fine. It's like fine.
Yes.
You really have to try to fuck this song up to fuck it up. Like it's not a difficult song. It just kind of exists. I will say that my second listen when I was wearing my Bose earbuds, I could hear some like layers and stuff. My first listen was on like my sound system, my speakers. I could hear like some like intricate little guitar stuff happening kind of in the back and some layers and stuff. But I would be remiss if I don't say what the fuck is going on with the drum fill at the beginning of the song and the drum fill at the end of the song, because at the beginning it's like it's shitty, but whatever, because the song follows. But at the end, it's shitty and it snaps you right out of the song, like you're being like awoken from like an okay dream. You're just
Mm.
being shaken out of it.
Uh, yeah, weird little bad, not good Canadian monkey shines there. I don't know how. Yeah, I see what you mean. That was weird.
It's just strange, and it's like kind of out of time. And
Yeah.
Nora Jones gives like a fine vocal performance. It's far from her best. She's not sending her best vocal performance on
Again.
this song. um, but yeah, I just wanted to. That was one that I typed out a lot of stuff about. I
Yeah.
just wanted to get that out there. But Cross-eyed and painless.
Yeah.
Or unless you want to talk about more about the naive melody. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead.
No, it's all good because I had that in my fine category. Like, we'll briefly go over. Nah, fuck it. It's not that interesting to be like, well, what did I have in each category? Not interesting. So we will. We'll move on to Cross-eyed and Painless. Chicano Batman. For me, the big thing is they captured the energy and the things that make it a special song. The extreme, again, the big energy, a great performance that maintains the structure and the feel, putting their own spin on it at the same time, letting it go to interesting places because they always know when to come back to the original structure of the song. I just think it's like it's again one that in lesser hands could have flopped over into the karaoke version. And this one just, what's the difference between ordinary and extraordinary? It's that little extra. It's probably hyperbole to call it extraordinary, but within this crop, look at this crop, we'll go ahead and call it extraordinary. Why not?
You know why you can't win, Lord.
Yeah,
You can't be Lord. Can't be
come on.
Lord.
Can't be doing Lord. No, not Lord.
Uh, yeah, the one, and I'm gonna sound like a dick, nitpicky. This version starts right at the fast part, and on the film, it does this kind of long synth slow build up, and then when it drops, it's kind of like a shot of adrenaline.
Hmm.
And they just start this one right at the shot of adrenaline,
Yep.
which is like again, they a lot more people did a lot worse stuff on this record. Um, but I have in all caps. Just thank God for this. Uh, energy is there. The crazy
Yes.
drum and cowbell parts are spot on. Bless Chicano Batman and Money Mark. Bless them. Uh, I'm waiting for you at the end. Shades of B-52 is kind of like fun backup vocals that the guy would
Oh.
sing on like Love Shack and stuff like that. I just felt like a tinge of that. Maybe it's because I listen to the B-52s a lot, but not a lot, just more than most people. But yeah, like they get the song, they're covering the song. It's not just a karaoke version of someone covering the song. The soul is there, the performance is there, and I love this song. Ends of the earth. I love Cross-eyed and Painless so much. It's a great ending piece for the film, and it's a great ending piece for this album because let's say that Chicano Batman and maybe Money Mark is there or he isn't. Maybe they do an earlier song on the record and also crush it, and somebody else does Cross-eyed and Painless and like tanks it. The whole feel of the album for me would be a lot. I mean, I still don't like it, but it'd be way worse. It'd be
Hey,
way worse.
it could always be
Yeah,
way worse.
yeah. Like it ends on a strong note, which I tip the cap to.
Yes, very much so. And I will say to finish that off, it does it's definitely more of a cover of the studio version. I
Mhm.
would dare say even not the album version, obviously, because we're talking about the differences in the beginning. It's solidly a cover of the studio version. That's okay with me in this instance because it tries to be the redeemer at the end. It gives me what I want, which is one of the high energy ones, one of my favorite Talking Head songs. I got a lot of favorites, a lot of guys.
Mhm.
Um, and it really did just kind of like come through at the end and be like, not all is lost. Here's a faithful, fun, interesting cover of one of your favorites to take you out of this quagmire in which you found yourself in pursuit of this episode of On the Record. And that is that one. Do you have any closing thoughts on the album?
In general, I mean, if you're a fan of the movie or even the Talking Heads, I think you have to listen to this once. I think you have to experience it just to be like, if you've ever thought, if you're on the edge of like going and doing an open mic night and worried that you're gonna fail in front of like 10 people in some bar, just listen to this and listen to all these professionals just sit on their own balls covering songs that are so beloved to millions of people, and maybe it'll give you a little confidence boost to go out there and give the open mic night a whirl, because for the most part a lot of these are not only like they're like it's borderline offensive, it's offensive behavior, but the ones that are good are really good. And again, just tip the cap, Linda Linda's, Paramore, uh and Chicano and Money Mark, for carrying the weight of this album, because otherwise this review would just be all bad stuff if it
Right.
wasn't for those versions. If you have not seen the film, what are you doing? What are you doing? You gotta watch it. If you like music and you like, I'd say even if you like art,
Mm,
if you consider yourself an art fan, there's so much to it. The set design, the costumes, the camera shots, the transitions, it's just all there. Um, and it's also great summer music. So we're rounding right into a great time to watch it and a great time to bump it in your car with the windows down and the volume turned way up.
dude, we should watch it at camp this summer.
Done, done and done.
Done and
I'll
doneer.
I'll put it in the stack of Blu-rays to bring out there. Yeah.
Catching rays and watching Blu-rays. Is there anything better?
Instead of the big suit, we should get like a very small suit and stuff Mitch into
I've got a girlfriend.
it.
Instead of a big suit, we do a big swimsuit. It's pulled up under his tits and just like billowing. I don't get to bed. Um, yeah, I would say the good was there were precious few good songs on this that were not worth the price of admission, but you should check it out. It's important to like, know what's going on with the things you love and how people are treating them. So we can make sure this never happens again. A24 on notice, you greedy bastards. Um, yeah, obviously, like you said, watch the movie if you haven't. If you're here and you love Stop Making Sense, I'll tell you what, it's a hell of a palate cleanser because I went bangarang on these tonight before the recording.
Hmm.
Wisest decision I ever made. I went into it with a lot of optimism, even though we shredded up the bad ones. Um, yeah, and one other takeaway I would have from this is go back and listen to the superior product. Stop Making Sense, and also go check these artists out individually. Like I
Hmm.
enjoy Blonde Shell. I'd like to see what the Cavemen are up to. The Linda Lindas are an obvious for me. That's dope that they're that good. And again, they're not like world beaters, but they're that good. And they're like, again, the drummer's 13.
It's
Okay.
crazy. It's
Okay.
crazy.
If she, that's nuts to me. So go check out these artists because it's not necessarily anything against them. Baffling decisions, burning personal hatred for Kevin Abstract and Miley Cyrus at the moment. I'm sure it'll go away, but even check them out too. No, I said I'm done with Miley.
Yeah, don't.
Kevin Abstract, yes, thank you. But yeah, so go check these people out, and yeah, any other closing business before we sign off?
I would just like to say again that you know, Steely Dan's the greatest.
Hell yeah,
And
brother.
and and no, I mean, but besides that, thanks for having me on. I had a good time talking with you about uh the record, Let me leave you with this from a review of this album from Paste. Background music that never gets exciting enough to make you pull out your phone and Shazam it. You won't think twice about this album, and you very well might just forget about it altogether once you start listening to something else.
And to that I say, wait, what were we talking about? It's that
Talking
forgettable, folks.
Talking Heads?
Talking Heads. You
Yeah.
talking heads to me. That's an interesting podcast. Anyway, we're not plugging other podcasts. We're out of here. Tanner and I will be back with another passion project very soon, whatever that is, TBD. But we will definitely get back at this. Thanks for doing this with me. This was fun. And to echo your sentiments, Steely Dan is the greatest. And fuck you, Jeff.
Yeah, eat it.
Until next time.